Well, it's good to be with all of you. Mike and I met when we were in ministry. So I have a little bit of like, I guess we'll call it preacheritis in me. So I don't care if you unmute and shout me down. I'm ready for that. I feed off the engagement. It makes me excited. I do love Jesus, but I'll cuss a little. So earmuffs, if required. I'll do my best not to, but I can't make any promises. So I'm excited to be here with you all. And I'm kind of tongue in cheek on that, just having fun with y'all. And I'm excited to walk you through really what my experience has been like with human design. I know everyone's going to have a million questions, like the differences between what's a generator, what's a manifesting generator, what's a projector, what's a reflector. There's a lot of questions. And I'm sure that myself, Ellen, and Lisa could be here until probably midnight, answering all the intricacies of how the system works. What's most fascinating, in my opinion, is the results that you can generate with it. Now, how many of you are in marketing? Let me just see hands really quick. How many of you are in marketing or let's say branding, like anything in that? Okay, in that sphere. So you know this old adage, right? Of you're not buying the hammer, you're buying the nail in the wall, right? That's kind of how human design works. It's not really just the system that's powerful. What's most powerful is what you can do with it. And that's my intention to share with you today a little bit more about what you can do with the system and how it can impact you. If you want to learn about certain intricacies around the differences and the science behind it and how it functions, I encourage you to do a whole bunch of blog reading or feel free to send me some messages and we can chat about that. But really what my intent here is today to do with you is to really tell you a story about how it changed my life. And if you guys are okay with that, shout me down in the chat because boy, do I have a story to share with you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and I'm going to walk you through this. And of course, time dependent and how long y'all want to hang out. Maybe we'll get to a live demonstration as well. I told Mike, I said, you better be ready for anything because anything could happen. It'll be a whole bunch of fun. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull up my, I'm just going to present my screen here in a moment. And let's go ahead and rock it out. All right. Let me know if y'all can see my screen. I'm going to start it in 3, 2, 2.5, 2 3/4. Okay, there it is. 1, boom. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? It says, is this you? Okay, cool. All right. So personal brand, expert-based business. In the chat really quick, let me know, is this you? A personal brand, expert-based business. You've had your business running off the ground for at least 6 months, so your brand is established and you already have an offer that you can sell. If this is you, put yes in the chat right now. I want to make sure that as we're chatting through this story that I have context about every single person who's in the room. All right, sweet, sweet, sweet. All right, so here's why this is going to be important in everything that we talk about today. If you're tired of strategies that are ineffective because there's no one size fits all approach, if you're ready to work in alignment with your energy and finally tap into your superpowers and amplify your magnetism and income, you're going to learn some really epic stuff today that I believe is going to help you. If you want to wake up every day feeling excited to show up to your business, overflowing with inspiration and in love with your life, if you want to serve from a place of what I call compassionate curiosity or a deep sense of love, to operate from a place of wholeness, a place where you're unconditionally proud, not just of what you do. That's the generators, by the way. They're here to get stuff done and to do things. But the projectors who are in the world, the ones who are here to see things, who aren't here to do things, you're here to see things. You'll see how I pepper in a lot of the human design training into this conversation. If you're ready for this magnetic, radiant attraction to your dreams, to work with the best clients that you can think of, and to bring them into your sphere every single day, you're going to learn something that's really powerful today. And I'm also the type of person who's here to tell the truth. And you're going to learn that about me very quickly. And that's why I said I love Jesus, but I cuss a little, because they're both very true. And why do I say that? Well, the reality is because I know that part of what I do is kind of being a heretic. It's part of my design. It's part of the uniqueness of who I am. So some people in this room have been experiencing intense burnout. Maybe you've been wondering, is it possible to grow my business without burning out? I promise you the secrets to this answer are inside of your human design. If you've been working 50 hours a week and you're a projector, I promise you there's something very wrong. Very, very, very wrong. And we'll talk about that because projectors are the most conditioned type. And typically midlife projectors experience insane burnout because they've been following the blueprint from everybody else. And they're just to a place now where they're like, holy crap, this is not working. And I don't know if I'm going to make it through tomorrow. Generators may want to work 60 hours a week and they have no problem doing it. Maybe they don't have a sense of burnout. It all depends on where you're operating your energy from. Can you find a strategy that works for you? Maybe you've tried a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of different business models. We're going to look at your business models, your offers. Human design solves the whole thing. Can you be successful without niching? How many of you have asked yourself the question of, do I have to niche? Do I have to have a niche? Like, what happens if you're global? What happens if you're like absolutely stellar at what you do and you're like, well, I don't want to just work with doctors. I don't want to just work with coaches and consultants. You know what? Let me just free somebody today. I never realized what a prison labels would put me into when people try to describe to me what I did. I don't know if anybody else can resonate with that, but there was a part of me that identified with the concept of being somebody who was giving a meaningful contribution to the world. But when someone said coach, I was like, yeah, I don't know about that. When someone said pastor, I don't know about that. When someone said consultant, I was like, I don't know about that because I'm trying to break these chains off. Why? Because I'm a hope dealer and a dope healer. And I have to frame it in a way that allows me to experience liberation so that I can get out into the world and do my greatest work. Do I have to niche for me? I don't. But what I need to be mindful of is who I'm choosing to serve. And that's a come from. That's an intuitive response. And I'll show you how we arrive to that with maybe Mike or someone else here today. Maybe you've been wondering, do I have to post content every single day? I know this is probably a big one for people. How many of you like absolutely hate publishing content online? It's okay. You can raise your hand. I won't judge you. I promise. I've been there. Yeah. All right. So for example, generators maybe publish a lot of content. Manifesting generators are not only superhumans, they have superpowers, and they're the ones in control of the current world that we live in. And in 2027, projectors will be taking over the world. The ones who will be ushering in this whole next stage of the energy that we've been experiencing are the ones who are the seers, not the doers, not the superheroes, but the ones who carry unique perspective, the advisors in the world. It's really, really powerful. So maybe you want to create content, but you want to do it at a frequency that makes sense to you. There is a way to do that. It doesn't require you to show up every day. And believe it or not, Gary Vee, out of all people, is a projector who's been heavily conditioned by generators to have to show up and hustle and grind. How many of you are ready to trade the hustle for alignment? Because alignment is the new hustle, and that's where we're going today. If you've been experiencing imposter syndrome, the question of who am I? Who am I to lead others when I struggle to lead myself? That's an ouch one, right? We've probably all been there. What if I don't follow the exact steps or strategies that someone told me that I have to do? Remove your shoulds. The quickest path for you to get into alignment to what you feel called to do is to remove your shoulds. Write all the things down that you think you should do. See, when I say it that way, you're like, oh yeah, that sounds good. I'll just write down all the things I think I should do. Now remove the shoulds. And I ask you a question of, for some of you emotionally, what feels right? For some of you who are intuitive in your authority, what does your intuition say about this? For some of you who are coming from a place of mental projection maybe, or operating from your mind, is what logically makes the most amount of sense. You have to know your design to understand the blueprint of your life and how this is going to work for you. If some of you have been experiencing deep frustration, how do some people make it look so easy? And maybe you get a little triggered by those people who are always talking about how easy it is. I know that I used to get triggered by them. I'm like, what the hell? How come when I was in ministry, I never got asked to speak one time? But the other people got asked to speak. And when they were on stage, to be totally frank, I've been listening to public speakers since I was 3 years old. They weren't very good. How come it felt like something that God called me to, but I felt so unqualified to do it? And I think that's the promise on the other side of this equation. When we get to the other side I believe that God will position something in your heart that makes you question, man, I know I really want to do this, but I feel so unqualified to do it. And in the process of being unqualified, I think it illuminates the chance for something or someone or whatever greater power that you believe in to be able to intersect that moment and create divine intervention, maybe in the form of clarity, for you to actually realize that on the other side, I believe that God leverages our imperfections and the sense of being unqualified so that he can help us. And then he qualifies to do the thing that we thought was impossible. That's where I'm trying to go with it. So the deep frustration that you feel is trying to do the same thing 1,000 different ways. If you've ever heard of the Toyota test, it's really simple. Stop asking 25 questions and start asking one question 25 different ways. Ask the same question. If you feel called to speak, ask yourself why you're not doing it. Instead of going, do I want to speak? Do I want to consult? Do I want to coach? Maybe I should do human design. This sounds like a lot of fun. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that. Nope. Maybe you should just go back to the thing that you feel the least qualified to do and ask God for help. Because more than likely, and I've done this with literally hundreds of people, that's the thing that illuminates the loudest. And we're going to talk through some of that here today. This was me in 2019. So I'm a storyteller, so I'm going to wrap in a lot of different parts of human design into a story. In 2019, I was broke, I was burnt out, and I was betrayed. My best friend stole $2 million from my business. I went $300,000 into debt. My marriage was on the rocks. I completely lost momentum, which I think is the prized possession of business. I was working 16 hours a day as a projector designed to work 4 hours a day, and I had no idea what to do next. This was me in 2022. I rediscovered human design. I got out of debt. I was sitting on $200,000 in cash. I did over $1 million in my coaching business. I fired terrible clients and got aligned ones. Everyone could give like a amen shout out to that. I went to over 100 therapy sessions between 2021 and 2022. My marriage was better than it had ever been. I met David Meltzer, who's my mentor, and he's a global leader. They made the movie Jerry Maguire after him, for those of you who don't know who David is. I had insane momentum. I was working 4 hours a day and made a decision to move to a new city. And this is how human design changed my life. And I'm going to go through some more specifics, so just roll with me. In 2022, my speaking and content completely changed. My message was insanely piercing. Recognition as somebody who was influential, somebody who was worth listening to, someone who was offering something of unique contribution, that whole thing blew up again. Finally, my calling wasn't in question. We're talking about 100 therapy sessions and 80 personality tests to try to nail this. Human design was a thing that did it for me. I was on 2 television shows. I was building new relationships with incredible entrepreneurs. I was meeting global influencers like Les Brown and Gary Vaynerchuk and a lot of other people. I was sharing platforms with thought leaders. And that's Muhammad Ali's grandson right here next to me in this photo here. I met with 10 entrepreneurs who were looking for investment in a panel to give investment to entrepreneurs, a $50,000 investment to early stage entrepreneurs. My personal brand was growing faster than ever before. I was getting asked to speak and contribute daily. I even started a personal branding rebrand process with Mike Kim. Woo woo! People would come up to me after my talks and share with me about how whatever I said to them was meaningful. People were saying, I know I need to work with you. Your stuff really resonates with me. Will you be on my podcast? These were the things that were happening in my world. And so I'm illuminating this because I want to show you the contrast of the before and after. If you continue down the road that you've been on and you don't have a blueprint that can anchor to your belief that says, yes, this is true. Yes, this is true. Yes, I can follow this path for me. You're going to end up where I was if you haven't already been there. And what my heart says to those who have already been there is I went through the 100 therapy sessions and the 80 personality tests to finally figure out something that worked. I was getting amazing engagement from incredible people like Lisa. There's tons of depth. I love the depths of the inner work that you've done. This resonates with me. Your writing is insane. You're the GOAT. I can feel the energy radiating up my arm from the things that you're speaking. For those of you who are building a personal brand, these elements are required. And all of this stuff I learned from my human design. Yo, your writing is insane. So much power, so much conviction. You're a GOAT. I'm like, yo, this is almost too much. But it wasn't until I started recognizing the way that I was designed and how I could serve the people that I felt like I was supposed to serve did any of this pop. So if you're like Gideon, the hidden hero, hiding in the threshing room floor, saying, God, why do you want to use me? But I'm from the tribe of Benjamin, meaning I'm from the group of people who are the runts. No one picked me. I never got picked first. I'm actually like the bottom of the bottom of the bottom. Well, even a better reason why God will use you. And that's my opinion, is when we have that moment of asking God for help, when we have that moment of being able to pursue our unique identity, our unique calling, and what we're supposed to do, all of this illuminates. I'm showing you the contrast. Roll with me. Promise it's going to make sense. All of a sudden, I started having conversations differently. This dude's like, hey, I'd love to set up a call sometime to discuss building your personal brand. This was from a mastermind that I spoke in, and he ended up becoming a client. You can see over here on the right at the bank, 18K, right? This is how this stuff worked. Now let's build this up and get on some stages together. And I got him on 3 different stages, all specifically within his industry, within the #1 conferences that were in his industry, because he finally figured out what to say. Here's another client who signed over here on the right. I was speaking at an event and someone dropped this line. And I mentioned this very briefly earlier. I spoke at 1,000 live events. I hosted 1,000 live events when I was in ministry. I never got asked to speak one time. And this was one of the first times that I can recall that someone heard me speak. They found it in them to publish it. And they said, one of the best speakers I've ever heard. I had another dude come up to me after and he said, dude, I've been to 5 different Tony Robbins conferences and I have never heard anybody communicate like that in my life. And here I am going like, cool. Here's the thing. When you don't need the external validation, it comes a lot quicker. I don't need the external validation because I finally figured out who the hell I was. And when you have clarity on that, who you are, why you're here, why that matters, who you're designed to be, you start creating those healthy boundaries about how you can serve, something shifts. I don't need Grant to say this. I had just met him that day. But what's funny is when you know something about yourself that's infinitely true, when you look at it in reverse and someone preaches it back and says, dude, you're one of the best speakers I've ever heard. I go like humbly, I know. Why? Because I know the way that I'm designed to be. It's not out of ego. It's out of purpose. It's out of finally accepting the call. And so quickly people want to go like, nah, it's ego. Oh no, I can't say that I'm really great at this because then, oh, people will think too much of me. Do you want to be poor forever? Do you want to be hidden? Do you want to be overlooked? Do you want to be insignificant? Because you have to trade that feeling of your uncertainty for the certainty of who you are and who you're created to be. And when you do, and the external validation comes, it doesn't affirm something that you know is a wound. It actually gives like wings to the truth that you already can sense and feel in your body. And you can see how it's starting to produce greatness in your life. It's just a closed loop of confirmation of what you're here to do. In 2013, I live here in Nashville, and we experienced a unique tragedy because my kids attend the Covenant School here in Nashville, and they were at the Covenant School the day that there was a shooting. I tell a lot of people like human design saved my life for a lot of reasons, but this was one of them that I didn't expect because I had started learning about who I was the year prior. Had I not figured out the uniqueness of who I was, what I was here to do, who I was called to serve, and been on the journey of trying to figure out all these elements around me, this would have broke me. This literally would have broke me. And it's funny because I was going through a lot of the parts of the journey, and maybe you are today, you're going through a lot of hard stuff in your life, whether you're facing divorce or financial challenges, or maybe this stuff with purpose is like just driving you insane. But life has a unique way of bringing things to the top that want to take you out. And my heartfelt reflection to you is that you will always know the size of the leader by the amount of arrows that they take. And when you're grounded and rooted in who you are, who you're called to be, and how that functions and operates in your world, I promise you something shifts. I didn't have to be concerned about what I was going to do with my business. I didn't even care. because I had so much clarity around who I was, what I was doing, how I was designed to make a difference in the world, that I wasn't going to let this break me. I had finally just got clarity. And tragedy is guaranteed. Why? Because I know part of my design is to communicate the dark night of the soul. Why wouldn't it happen to me? Why wouldn't I go through things when I have the gate of shock? Because that's what is part of my life. That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to understand these things and know these things. I learned how to say thank you to life's challenges because I'm the type of person in my design who's here to give people a different point of view on life's challenges and circumstances. All this stuff comes from it. I finally stopped fighting and I started living again. I remember 2 years, maybe 3 years ago, I got this lady approached me and said, "You're a great speaker. You should pay me $25,000 to come do a TEDx." Has anybody ever got one of those before? I was like, that sounds cool. No, thanks. And just let it go. And then this past year, after creating content and doing all this stuff, this gal approached me and said, "I think you'd be perfect to speak on our stage for TEDx." This was in December of last year. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. And little did I know the experience we'd have that year. Halfway through the year, I decided to completely change the talk, of course. And I can celebrate on August 26th. I did my first TEDx talk, and it was absolutely amazing. Again, from the guy who never got asked to speak to go into a TEDx talk with just like a random invitation from someone who said, "I see you, I believe in you, I resonate with you, and you have something to share with the world that I think is amazing." So to me, through all of this stuff, I think that is worth celebrating, and it's pretty dope. It's a testament to following the thread in life. And my wife and I, that's Ashley down there, we went on our first vacation. We have 4 kids between 2 and 8. And so we went on our first vacation ever without the kids since we got married, since our honeymoon. So that was a lot of fun too. So why am I telling you all of this? Well, if you're not on cloud 9 right now going like, I know exactly who I am, who I've been created to be, I know exactly the people that I serve. I don't have imposter syndrome. I don't have any challenges with generating what I want for my business. I don't have any issues speaking on stages. I don't have any issues creating content. Well, then I can't help you. Kudos to you. Everything's good. Have an amazing time doing what you're doing, and I can maybe spur you on and encourage you on in the right direction. But what I've sensed with a lot of people is that their uniqueness has been suppressed for years. And the number one thing, and I learned this through human design, the number one thing that will cure suppression is honesty. So this is my point where I can be like really truthfully honest and go like, we can continue down a path of telling ourselves like the bullshit story that you're unworthy, and that's going to do nothing. We can also choose to tell ourselves the truth, which is I'm choosing to stay stuck. I'm choosing to stick in the mud, to be a stick in the mud right now. I'm choosing to have a bad attitude right now. I'm choosing to be confused right now. And I would say, great. This is the choice right now. You believe that this is too hard to solve, or you're choosing to stay stuck. That's okay. Now we can actually take action in the right direction. If any of those things that I explained at the beginning of this conversation about imposter syndrome, about lacking deep connection, about feeling like you want to do your greatest work, but you just can't figure it out, you're experiencing suppression, and I'm here to tell you the truth. My only question is, will you tell yourself the truth as well? Because if so, something can shift for you. This is what I wholeheartedly believe. If you're struggling in communication, this whole process that I've created is called messaging by design, where I leverage human design to help you articulate your message to the world. Most people have a whole lot to say, they just don't know how to say it. And the reason why I know this is because I share this with those of you who believe this. You have a whole lot to say, you just don't know how to say it. If that's you, shout it down in the chat. I can't see the chat, but I can see the number of chats, so I can see it bounce up if y'all comment. If you're the person right now, or the people right now who feel like you have a whole lot to say, but you just don't know how to say it, your mom is watching, don't lie. I went on social media after I figured this whole experiment out for myself, and I was just like, went to Facebook group and I said, Who here is like hesitating, needs help articulating their message? Because I'm ready to unmute the shit out of some people in here. That's what we call like holy conviction right there. Look at this. There were 46 people who responded. I just did it randomly. It was like in the middle of the afternoon. And I was like, what? This is crazy. So then I went through and I'm like, wait, what is going on here? Like, I thought I was the only one. Oh, yeah, I would love some unmute. This is so fun. I'm totally in. F yes. What in the world? I'm like, this is crazy. And then people were like, these comments are epic because people were like leaning in really, really hard. Please press the unmute button. I decided to follow the golden thread. And then I started sharing with people how this experience was impacting me. And I want to share with you a voice note. Let me just go ahead and make sure that the audio shares through. Share computer sound. All right, maybe this will work, maybe it won't. If it doesn't, that's okay. Okay, it's not going to, and it's going to make me restart anyway. So I'm just going to jam through. But one gal who I was messaging with, she ended up signing up, and her name is Heather Parody. Okay, I don't know if some of you know Heather, but Heather I met at a conference, and when I started talking to people about this, I'm like, hey, what's going on with your messaging? Are you sensing anything? Do you need any help with your messaging? What's going on in that world? And this is Heather, so y'all could go give her a follow and say what up if you want. She's really amazing. But I started working with Heather on her messaging and starting to figure out like, how can we use the human design process, which I'll show you in a moment, to start figuring out very specifically what you're meant to talk about. I had to align her energy. I had to align what it was that she wanted to communicate about and who she was. But you can see fractional COO to unconventional visionaries who are changing the world, fanning the flame of the creative underdog. All of that is very intentional, extremely intentional. So intentional that she started creating a new set of videos that we started defining some concepts around for her. Why? Because of the types of people that she felt called to work with that was in alignment very specifically to her human design. And she got, this is so funny. I sent her a message. I'm like, yo, I got to use you for the testimonial for this thing. Like, what in the world is going on? And she's like, dude, I don't know. Russell Brunson just started following me. Jim, whatever, starts with the last name, starts with a G, Galoff or whatever, the comedian guy started following her. She's like, I don't know, everything's just exploding. It's absolutely insane. You can go on her page and go look at this stuff. 1.5 million views on her content. Then she talks about Lindsay Sterling, 70,000 views on her content. The main thing she said in the voice memo from Facebook that I was going to show you was she said, listen, I don't know like what's going on. I just feel so much more confident, so much more clear. I just feel so much more in alignment with what I'm here to do and the people that I'm meant to serve that like, I just feel unleashed and I'm just like going for it. All the hesitation has stopped. And so primarily for Heather, she just found herself in a place of where like it all started clicking. It all started making sense. So I know y'all are dying at this point going like, this is amazing, bro, but please like tell me what the heck is going on with human design and what this thing is. Before we go there, if you have any questions specifically about any parts of the journey or you want to comment on anything, you can unmute. I'm going to create some space. Then I'm going to get into the very specifics about what human design is and how it works. I just felt this frame would be helpful to share with y'all, and hopefully it inspired you. Three, two, one. All right, cool. We'll keep rocking. Probably just because everyone wants to know what human design is. Okay. So what is human design? So human design, and this is the way that I frame it, it's a new system that gives you a detailed blueprint of your DNA. It's how your energy is designed. It showcases how you're unique and what your gifts and your life's purpose are. Like computer code, when you all received your human design, you're probably like, huh? What is this weird character on the screen? And what are all these filled in triangles and squares mean? Like, what is going on with all these numbers and these lines? Well, it's actually extremely intentional. And it's exactly what's leveraged in order to decode someone's unique design. I often tell people it's somewhat spiritual, mostly scientific, and incredibly strategic as a self-discovery tool that helps you reconnect to who you are at your core and to who you came here to be. So I leverage it as a tool to unmute, unleash, and unlock people to do their greatest contribution in the world. And this is what it looks like. So this is Heather's, okay? Just to give you a little example. I'm going to go through a few different things around this concept. and I'm going to show you some of these things and what they mean. And I can read this like someone's reading JavaScript to me. So I'm going to just articulate back to y'all what I'm seeing, what I'm noticing. And there's so much, I literally could talk about this for like 7 hours. So I'm going to do my best to just go through and explain some of these specifics to you. So here at the top, this yellow triangle right here, this yellow triangle represents the crown, which is like inspiration and brainstorming. It's all about like spiritual consciousness, really. I mean, this is like the place of where inspiration and where brainstorming, the big ideas come from. This second triangle right here, the green one, this is your working mind. So this is kind of like your head, right? So you have like the inspiration and then you have the working mind. And so here, when someone's colored in on both of these, I can tell immediately they're a pretty fixed thinker. And it's not a bad thing, right? But most people are not. 70% of people are very open-minded. There's 30% of people in the world who actually have a fixed point of view in what they see. So what was cool with Heather was that like I'm bringing in a new concept, a new idea like human design, and she's actually more of a fixed thinker. So it has to integrate into her mental or logical system for her to go like, this is making sense. I can find evidence to where this is true in order for it to click and lean over, then in order for me to gain access to help her uncover more. By the way, our buddy Mike is also has this fixed logical mind. And you remember when he was talking about his design, he was like, yeah, I can see evidence for that. Yeah, I can see evidence for that. Yeah, I can see evidence for that. It's a logical process in order for him to understand it. So those of you who have an open mind, meaning let's say both of these top sections are open, you're open to inspiration. Think of it just like your front door is open. I'm open to inspiration. I'm open to brainstorming. I'm open to all different types of things when it comes to big ideas or like trying to understand quantum physics and like how all this stuff works. Like there's a curiosity, there's an excitement to that. You're also open to how things in the world work. So you don't have a fixed pattern that A to B, B to C, C to D. You might be the type of person who's okay having a bunch of Legos and saying, well, let's just see what we can create, versus the person who's like, no, we have to follow the instructions. Okay. So it's kind of funny, but these are the types of things I could pick up on very quickly within someone's design. So these are all of your energy centers. If they're filled in, very simply, that just means that you have consistent energy to perform in that area of your life. So I could say that like Heather, her mind, she can perform in inspiration. She can perform in like logical function, COO. See what I'm saying? She can perform in that consistently. She can constantly build new systems and new methods and new processes in her damn sleep. For someone with an open mind, no. And there's a very specific difference. And here's what I mean. When you're in your human design profile and trying to figure out what these elements mean when building your personal brand, if these areas are colored in, that means that's how you do client delivery. This is so like a 5149. You really got to catch this. If it's colored in, that's how you do client delivery. If it's open, that's what you're selling. So where you're open to conditioning is where you learn the most about things that are in the world. It's where you carry the most wisdom. It's where you're also going to carry the most amount of life's challenges. So what a lot of people do is they'll learn something from a course and then be like, that was actually really good. I should reteach and train and regurgitate all of that. And so they try to sell the thing that they learned, right? They're trying to sell the delivery. Here, buy my course. Well, maybe, but if that's not in your design, that you have sustainable energy to go build a bunch of systems and processes and build all the courses, maybe you don't have a defined throat, which means you don't really have consistent energy to communicate all the time. If it's open, that's what that means. Then maybe that's actually not the best way for you to do it. You could probably, if you're the type of person who has an open mind or an open anja right here, this reverse triangle in the green, if you're the person who has that and it's open, you could sell a system, but how you might deliver that system might be through services if you have a filled in sacral. Now, all I'm trying to show to you is there's a whole lot to this process. And I'm giving you an example of Heather's chart. I'm giving you an example where you can inspect yours and go like, what does that mean? So here at the top, inspiration. I'll go through these fast. The second one, the working mind. This one right here, throat communication, marketing, messaging. That's what this represents. This one right here, the yellow, this represents your identity center, the G center. This is vision, direction, things like that. Self-orientation, like direction, vision in your life. Where it's filled in, think of it like I was born with the blueprint on this. I have consistent energy to do this. Where it's open, it's like probably got a lot of life challenges in those areas, probably bumped into a lot of things in life in those areas. And that's where they represent where wisdom and profit centers are, the ones that are open. So right here, this open ego, that's the ego, it's the heart chakra. Over here on the right, this is the solar plex. Emotional experiences, poetry, art. This is the only area on Mike's chart that he has open, which is interesting. The emotional center. So he's been able to sell feelings. That's what the solar plex does. Here's how you're going to feel when this is done. That's why he's written copy and done all these beautiful things for all these people, because his emotional center is open. He's open to learning about how to experience how people feel things and how he's sorting out his own emotions about products and services, and live events come from this center. So if this is filled in, you have consistent energy to run a live event. This bottom right. If it's open, you might not have consistent energy. You can sell a live event, but maybe you can't be the one who's going to deliver it. And that's where it's the 5149. You sell when it's open and you deliver when it's closed. Here in the middle, this is sacral energy. This is all like working creativity. So these are the busy bees. Okay. If you have this filled in, you're going to be a generator or a manifesting generator. That is 79% of the people probably in this room are all going to be in this cycle right here. Not all of you, but about 79% of the world has consistency in their energy when it comes to sacral energy. So they're here to do things. If you have this filled in, you are here to do things. And if you're a manifesting generator, then you are a superhuman with superpowers. So that's why I loved working with Heather, because whenever I see a manifesting generator, I'm like, oh man, these people are just so dynamic. It's just not fair. Over here on the left, this is your emotional intelligence center, or sorry, this is your intuition center. So this is your spleen. This is safety, intuition, survival. Health comes from here as well. So if it's filled in, you have consistent energy around these things and to deliver these things. If it's not filled in, that means you probably have some life lessons that you've learned about intuition, maybe about health and wellness, and maybe about survival or safety. And if that's open, you've also been conditioned. You've probably had some challenges in those areas of your life. And the bottom is the root. And what the root represents here at the bottom is ambition and drive. So if that's filled in, you probably have a pretty clear idea around ambition, drive, what you want. If it's open, you may be ambitious, but it's misguided. You may be ambitious, but you can't seem to get your like traction. It's like the wheels in the mud are spinning. You might experience some of those things. These are energy centers. And I know I'm flying through these, but like I said, trust me, I could talk about this for like literally hours. So I'm just going to choose to give you a generalized overview. All right. So those are your energy centers. The best thing that I can tell y'all today is if it's closed, that's how you do client delivery. If it's open, it's what you sell. And I'll give you guys an opportunity to be able to collaborate in figuring out most of this for you, because I can shortcut this process and figure out for you in about 10 minutes. So over here are some things that you'll want to focus on if you're going to go do some research later. Your type, your profile, and your strategy. Those are really important. Your type, your profile, and your strategy. Type, manifesting generator. Profile, 3-6, the martyr role model. The martyr, the design side, means this is who you were created to be if you never got conditioned. The one on the right says this is your personality. So at the end of the day, because we all get conditioned in this lifetime, and it's actually good for us. Over here on the right, the conditioning and what it's going to do is be your personal brand, essentially, is all in your personality and your makeup. It's all over here on the right. I'll give you guys a couple like hints on how that works. So this side over here on the right is how you show up in the world today. And this is where all your alignment comes from. This one over here on the left, had you just never had an issue in your whole life, this is who you would have been. It's the easiest way to think about it. All right, a couple last things, and then I'll go to the next. The strategy, this strategy is how you're meant to operate in life. My strategy is to wait for the invitation. Mike asked me to come here with y'all and to spend time with you. That's how I know it's in alignment, because I wait for the invitation. That doesn't mean that I hide, but it means that I wait for the invitation in life. In addition, yours could be respond. Respond is very specific. People who need to respond, I often tell them, like, sleep on it, because you need like 24 hours to respond to something. And it's like the opposite of reacting. You got to slow down, observe, and then respond to the thing. So this is like your decision-making strategy in your life. And you can learn a lot more about that. But like with client relationships, I know if I go out into the world and I'm just trying to initiate as a projector, doesn't work. Falls flat, waste of energy, absolutely like mind-numbingly annoying, because I'm not meant to generate in that way. I'm meant to sit back, turn on meditative music, because I'm a splenic projector, which means I'm an intuitive projector, and wait for God to tell me who to call, encourage. It's like I connect on the back channel of life. I don't connect on the front. It's very interesting. But when I get to showcase abilities and have conversations at scale, then I tell people, hey, you probably will know if you want to collaborate with me. And if that's you, great, let's do it. And if it's not, that's totally fine too. But I leave it open for people to say, yes, this is something that I want to do. So for every single person, it's very different. For every type, rather, it's very different. But respond is the one that connects here with the manifesting generator. Now, the themes, it's the easiest way for you to know that if you're in alignment or not. If your theme is satisfaction, then that's how you know. Am I satisfied? Okay, good. Then I'm in alignment. For projectors, it's success. So if you're experiencing success in your life right now, then you know you're in alignment. If you're experiencing bitterness, then you know very, very quickly your shit's broken and you need help. And if you don't ask for help, you're missing out on the greatest contribution that you can give to people, because when you ask someone for help, it gives them the ability to give their gift to you. And in reverse, asking people for help, also, when someone asks you for help and wants to collaborate with you, what does that do for you? It gives you the opportunity to contribute your gift. So it's very, very necessary that if you're manifesting generator and your theme is like frustration or anger, that is your not self theme. That means you are ding, 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 out of alignment. And you have to be honest with yourself about what those experiences are. I know that's a whole shit ton of information, so I love you and I apologize. But again, this took me 20 hours. I felt like 20 hours a day, probably literally like 8 or 9 hours a day for about 4 months to figure out. Some of you are like, I can do that and I'll go on the journey. Some of you are like, nah, figure out the shortcut. Let's nail this thing. And we'll talk about that. These channels here on the bottom where your energy connects, just think of these again for the sake of time. These are almost like your superpowers. So we can identify this right through the chart. I can see exactly what your superpowers are and how those energy centers connect when we're helping you figure out your offer, your design, or how this functions within your uniqueness. Okay. All right. One last thing, and then I'll move on. Up here in the top right, this number right here is called your conscious sun. This is your personality. And I'm going to pull up Mike's if Mike wants to jump back on if he's around. I want to pull up Mike's and walk everyone through his and to do a live demonstration. But before we do that, I'll give a little space so that people can ask some questions. But this number right here, this summarizes your personal brand. I'm giving you a huge freebie. This number right here at the top summarizes your personal brand. So for Heather, I could go actually find what that number was. And it's the first digit. You don't need to really worry about the second one for now. But it's that first digit, that number 18. And I could go figure out exactly what her personal brand was. And a lot of times that reflection back is what actually really establishes her to go like, wow, I can see it so clearly now. I want to understand how this works further. So Mike, welcome back.
Yes, I'm here. I'm trying to figure out how to pin my video, but I am here.
I could probably pin you. I have like 99
yeah.
plus messages on here. So there you go. All right, cool. So I'm happy to answer some questions, but I just wanted to take a moment to let the room breathe and kind of go over any questions that people have and open to any redirection. I know this is a lot of information. Oh, are we there? Oh, Mike, I think he...
Let me...
Did you freeze?
No, hold on. I'm here.
Okay.
Hold on. Did I do it right? All right, there we go. Okay.
Awesome. So let's open up maybe for some questions, and I can't see them in the chat, so just unmute, and then we'll ride through this again.
Yeah, I can kind of answer some of these. I think what will be helpful is, I don't know if you have these on the slides or anything. If you explain kind of what the major things are, like a manifester, a generator, a manifesting generator, a projector, a reflector. Do you have some stuff on that? Because I think as people have grabbed their profile, they kind of want to know what they are.
Yeah, absolutely. I could go through that for sure. I mean, I'll just pull up like one of the primary sites and just go through them just to make it really, really simple. I like to see it in like graphics. And so for me, that's usually a little bit more beneficial. But yeah, just
Would
give me a
that be
second, I'll
helpful
pull
for
it
you
up.
guys? Yeah, would that be helpful for you guys? Just give us a yes in the chat or a wave in the on the video. Um, yeah, y'all want to know about yourselves.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah, so
sure.
I know
Not just
while
about
Nick
my
pulls
career,
that, yeah, so while
yeah.
Nick pulls that up, yeah, it's always interesting, like when we think about like the Enneagram or the disc. What other personality profiles have you guys used? Like Enneagram, disc, anyone using MBTI? Those are like the famous ones, right? Colby, stuff like that. Working Genius, Danny said. Um, yeah, throw the other ones in the chat that you guys have used.
Hmm.
Disc, said Brad. And I've used a number of those. And I think what's interesting about my journey while Nick pulls all that stuff up is that probably the first types of personality tests or assessments that I took were like DISC, the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs. And when I look back on them, those were really how to function at work, right? Like how to interact with other people and their communication styles and so on and so forth. And then when I found the Enneagram, that was helpful because at least it didn't bottle me up into one particular thing. It was more about like, I'm an 8 on the Enneagram as far as I know. Um, and there's a range from like unhealthy 8 to healthy 8. And that helped me kind of understand that my main driver was freedom and my biggest fear was to be controlled, right?
Hmm.
Um, but that kind of seeped over into how I interacted with people and with myself, which was helpful to know. I think the thing that was interesting about human design is to really see and feel a little bit about more the way that my energy flows. I've heard a lot about what you're saying about energy today. Um, have you guys picked up on that as Nick has been sharing a little bit about like their energy, like what feels right and all that sort of stuff, right? So I think there it gets really detailed, but I think if we just start with the 4 types,
Hmm.
um, and then you can walk us through that, I think that would really, really help. So yeah, we
Yeah.
have a generator here, and I'm a generator. I'm happy to be a case study here, but I think that would help.
Yeah, absolutely. So generators, and you guys gotta understand too, it's funny, like my description in human design is a 1-3 on my type, which is investigating. So it's like asking a brain surgeon to explain brain surgery. And depth is actually where this stuff really comes alive for me. And I usually do that like in a small group or on an individual basis. So going over the overarching things is like sometimes I have to be reminded to do that. So thank you, Mike. So generators here, you guys can see my screen, right? And Jovian
Yep.
Archive is like, this is one of the best places just to go and like learn about human design. If you want to learn some concepts, it's like the primary source of its education. So generators, 70% of the population, I mentioned that earlier. The strategy is to respond. They're open and enveloping. The signature is satisfaction. We talked about that a moment ago. The not self theme is frustration. So if you're a generator, this is your type. So the best explanation, we can kind of just get an overview here. Generators are the dominant type on the planet. So 70% of people are generators. They're the driving force of the planet. And just because it says like, hey, you're here to do things, like don't take that as a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. There's an acceptance that you have to have that like, yeah, I'm here to crush it. Yes, I'm here to do things. There's a specific way that I do things, but I am here to get stuff done. And don't reject that part of the design. I often say it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you kind of allow it to just bring confirmation to you and try not to reject it and say, no, I'm not that way, I'm this way, that will cause a tug of war just like any other personality test. So it's a dominant type on the planet with nearly 70% of the population, the driving force. Their strategy is to respond, and through response to find satisfaction and avoid frustration. They have an open and enveloping aura and need to learn about themselves. So I'm kind of curious who all the generators are here. I know there's
Yeah.
probably a lot. But
All
that's
the
generators.
generators say yeah. And it's so funny that you said that, is because I literally opened our talk today here with this stuff, right? I mean, you guys
Mhm,
remember that.
mhm.
And I didn't even know that's what this said. So like I work a lot. How many of you generate? Okay, I'm seeing all the generators in the chat. Like we work long hours. We can work long. Like we love working as long as it's in alignment. And Nick, scroll down a little bit. It says the
Yep.
strategy is to respond and then find satisfaction and avoid frustration. And
Yep.
then I said it before earlier when we started, the need to learn about themselves. That is totally me.
Yep.
Right.
There it is.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
that is totally me. So yeah, I love all the generators here. Let's go now to the next one. Remo, we will get to manifesting generator in a moment. Yeah. It's a
Yep.
kind of combination of the two, but yeah, let's go through who are the projectors. I think Nick, you're a projector, right?
I am. So projectors are 20% of the population. Their strategy is to wait for the invitation. So it's like there's this pausing, there's this waiting, right? They're not initiators, and you should not be initiating if you're a projector. One other thing I'll just suggest about generators: a lot of generators are your atypical service providers because they have the energy to consistently provide a service to other people. Projectors are guides and mentors and advisors. Are most projectors. So they're not here to do things; they're here to see things. So the signature is success. So that feeling, that emotion, or that experience of success. The not self theme is bitterness. Whenever I tell a projector, like your not self theme when you're out of alignment is when you're super bitter, they're like, oh shit, I've been there, because again, projectors make things bigger. So what does that mean? Well, they're sourcing a lot of energy and information and putting it out, which means the energy passes through them. So they have to be extremely sensitive to environment. Strategy is to wait for the invitation, find success, and avoid bitterness. They have a focused and absorbing aura and need to learn about and understand the other. So I have some of my best, most illuminating conversations with other projectors. We're focused and absorbing, but we have to stick together because we learn so much from one another. Because we have a piercing aura. We can like see through someone and they're like, damn, this dude's reading my mouth. It's like, I don't, there's boundaries around that, of course. Like I don't enter someone's field unless they ask me to, but there's just a natural intensity to a projector. So manifestors, 9% of the population to inform. That's their strategy, to inform. Their aura is closed and repelling. So this is manifestors. Just roll with me. Signature is peace. The not self theme is anger. Not self theme is anger. So this is about 9% of the population. Their strategy is to inform before they act, to find peace and avoid anger. They have a closed, repelling aura. They're here to understand their impact on others. So this is specifically manifestors. Now, manifesting generators, you can get into like the specifics around that. All that means is that you're a manifester, but you have sacral energy. So that's why they're kind of like considered to be like superhuman, is because they have this angle of the manifester, and then they also have the generating capabilities. And so they're just typically the people who are out in front, and they're leaders of this current cycle of energy until 2027. They have been for about 250 years. Now, the last one are reflectors, which I've only stumbled across one reflector so far. But reflectors are 1% of the population. They wait for the lunar cycle. So they're like it's a very earthy type of energy because they're open to conditioning in every single way. They're completely open to energy too. So they're like literally the mirrors of the world. So resistant and sampling. So they're kind of like observing in a way, and they're sampling things, attempting to understand things. The signature is surprise. So they should be in awe and wonder. They should be like surprised by the beauty of nature and of people and of experiences. And the not self theme is when they're experiencing high levels of disappointment. So just over 1% of the population. Wait for the cycle of the moon before making decisions to find clarity, leading to a life of more surprise and less disappointment. And they have a resistant sampling aura and are learning to reflect rather than identify.
Cool. It's funny because here in the comments, as you guys are sharing, like as we went through those, like many of you are like, oh my gosh, that's so me. And that's super important. We have a few hands raised. Linda, if you're good to ask a question, feel free. Let me spotlight you. Hi.
Mhm.
Hi, loving this. And I am pretty familiar with human design. So my question is more specifically that like how and why you overlaid it on personal branding. Like that top right number, you said this, this kind of sums up your personal brand. How did you get to that and why is that so?
Yeah. So basically I went on the hunt to try to solve this and had some mentors along the way as well. The conscious sun essentially is where that what that represents in human design is the conscious sun, which makes up the personality of the individual. So it's the first identifying point, and the sun being that essentially like that primary infrastructure of all the rotation, all the stuff around astrology of like where you were positioned the moment that you were born, and the thing that's bringing the most amount of identification in life to you. It's what signifies life purpose. It's also what signifies a personal brand. So after doing a lot of the science through it and figuring it out and working with mentors to solve it, there's actually very specific, every specific placement connects to something that's unique about the individual, from personality to what stabilizes you, to the direction in life that you're moving to, the direction in life that you're moving away from. And so that's, I mean, I don't, to be honest, I don't like drive super, super, super deep into like master astrology stuff because that's not me. But I have defined and understood how the system works well enough to have the confirmation bias that it's true. So, I mean, and there's a lot of people who now are starting to like learn more about the system and how it functions. But I think like anything else, it's based on the person who you're getting the interpretation from. But I can tell you that the conscious sun makes up the personality of the individual at a master astrology level. I know that that's true, as well as the other ones
Awesome.
and how they cycle through. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
But just a lot of homework. Yeah.
Sandra, you had a question. I'm gonna pin you if you're good to ask. Sandra, fire away. Hi, you're muted. So yeah, there you go.
No, it was actually answered. I was just curious about the generator, which is how I showed up. So when we went
Oh,
through the
okay.
process of what that was, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome.
Cool.
Okay. Great. So Nick, what do you kind of want to like? We have some questions here, but I think
Yeah, I'd love to do Q&A.
we can go into
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, we can go into a little of mine. And so if you guys are good with it, I'll share a little bit of my stuff and walk you through a little bit of what this helped me understand. Let me pull up my narrative here.
I can, Mike, I have your chart on this side too, pulled up.
Yeah, I have some other stuff as well here that I can share on this doc. So let me share my screen. And again, this is just me sharing with you guys something that I've found helpful. Does that make sense? Like I'm not saying this is what like all of you have to do. I'm just saying like this has really helped me a lot. So Nick mentioned before, like I don't know, I only have one open thing. So I guess I'm pretty set in a lot of ways. But here's what I would share with you guys. When I saw that this was open, I didn't really understand this. And then when Nick said, because this is the emotions, and actually those of you like who have known me a little bit, others of you know me only from what I do online, but those of you who know me like for a little while now, I've had conversations and many friends are on this call. I'm actually, contrary to popular belief, a pretty emotional guy. And I'm actually impacted a lot by other people's emotions. So when I went into coaching and consulting and all this stuff, and I was around a lot of people who had bad or like janky energy, like it just drained the heck out of me. How many have ever gone to a live event that I've hosted? Just wave at me, Kathy, Nick, Ellen, right, Lynn. Okay, and I have a live event next week, and I love everybody who's coming, and I do not want to do the event because it's just so energetically draining. But I'll do it because I love them and I can find the strength. But literally, people have found me like taking a nap in the lobby of my own conference because I just take on everyone's energy. So actually, though I'm good at running live events and I know what should happen, I took it out of my business model. When I was in my 30s, I ran a live event every single weekend. It was called a church service. And for those of you who don't know, like I had a background in that, and I would crash for like 6 or 7 hours in the afternoon because it was so energetically overwhelming for me. It's not just that I'm an introvert. I know a lot of introverts that can run events. It's just being around the energy. Let me take it another step forward. Some of you are in mastermind groups with me, and others have done webinars like this. I will say, honestly, these kinds of webinars are very draining for me energetically. And and I still do them because I want to serve you all, right? But I want you to hear like actual business applications of how this has helped me understand myself. Because this is such an open container and I have no idea who's showing up, and then I dared to put everyone on the Zoom call. I've been worried like this whole time someone's just going to hijack the Zoom call or whatever and just start and like doing launches. How many of you guys know like product launches, like a series of 3 webinars, and that is actually very energetically draining to me because the emotion of it and me picking up all the emotions of strangers coming, it's like having a bunch of strangers over my house, but we're doing that on Zoom. So it's very energetically draining for me. This is why once I understood this, I shifted my business model more to doing mastermind groups and more to opening an agency and going back into service-based work. Everyone give me a wave if that makes sense. If you're understanding, like this has been really important for me in understanding like how I best work in the world energetically. Because if I just follow, and there's nothing wrong with these people, and some of you may follow them and you may be wired like them. I cannot do what Amy Porterfield does. How many of you know Amy? I've known Amy for a little bit. She's like one of the premier teachers on course. I cannot do what she does. I cannot go onto a webinar with thousands of people and talk to strangers every week. It drains me. I can do it capability wise, but energetically, I feel very tired, frustrated. I don't look forward to it. So I've changed my business model. And so some people might say, and a really ignorant business coach might say, Mike, you have a book, you have a following, you should do that kind of business model. And it sounds completely out of alignment with me. How many of you have ever received advice from a business coach and you felt like they were like trying to shove a square peg into a round hole? Yeah. Right.
Sure.
And then yet when I look at my mastermind groups, that it's one of the most successful things I do because it's very small, it's controlled. I know who's coming in. And here's the most important thing. And then Nick, I want to go through some of the languaging that you helped me with and Lisa helped me with. When I shifted to like following sort of my design energetically with my business model, I also vet everybody before they come into the mastermind group. So I do interviews with all of them. And if I feel like they're going to just be super draining, I don't take them because I don't want the money. I don't want the enrollment. For me, that's really important. For some of you, you may be wired completely different. You're like, I'll just take whoever comes. I can handle it. I'm just like a spark plug. Does that make sense? So that has helped me really articulate to myself what my business model should be. And then I have all these kinds of, these are even like down into like the copywriting and the messaging that I use, right? What is my role? It's a guide. I'm not a salesperson. I think most of you who have followed my work for a little while would say that Mike is not very pushy when it comes to sales. How many of you would say that? Like, I am not sending you 9 emails a day and be like, sign up for this or die. Sign up for this so you'll miss. I'm not like that. Right. So I feel like I've grown a really good business following this sort of thing. So all of this stuff, just what my clients may need, what my clients may seek, what they are struggling with, may they ask these questions, what they say, so on and so forth. This has helped me articulate all of this. So Nick, I'll throw it back to you, but I just want you guys to see some really, really practical business applications. And after I got through my book launch 3 years ago, and I discovered this, I configured my business model to what this was telling me, and I am way happier than I've ever been and way more successful than I've ever been. Okay. All right. Nick. Oh, you're muted, bud.
All right, there we go. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to showcase for you guys Mike's personal brand to give you like this is what I love to do is like the real-time demonstration. So I'm going to showcase to you guys, and now you know Mike, so this is why I do this, is because it makes a lot of sense. I'm going to showcase to you Mike's personal brand and watch how much about his personal brand is wildly true. All right, so if you guys can see my screen, let me know if you're seeing the mountains here. Can you guys see it? Yes. Okay, cool. So watch, I'm gonna read about Mike's personality and his personal brand, and write in the chat, like as you're picking up on stuff, like let me know that you're picking up on this. So it's called the mountain: groundedness, focus, and service. Groundedness, focus, and service. So I already see people's heads nodding, and some people laughing. So groundedness, focus, and service. So who is this archetype? And these archetypes, by the way, are just like, you know, whether it's Carl Jung or whether you're looking at different types of profiling, it's all just archetypes, okay? So through stillness, the mountain finds the fuel to focus. When he finds the right outlet through which to serve, he embodies a deep and reliable staying power. The mountain uses his concentration to improve something that makes a difference in the world. This archetype loves to join forces with the vital, who's just like the mountain, who is here to be of service and help people live a more joyful and fulfilled life and future. The mountain also has a close relationship with the mountaineer. In their joint endeavors, the mountaineer infuses his energy and life force to assure they attain any goal. The mountain knows when it is time for creative action and when it's time to turn inward and reflect. He appreciates spending time with the tranquil. By the way, the tranquil is part of my message to the world. So there's things that like I connect dots on with individual people and how they connect based on their design. So he appreciates spending time with my messaging. He helped me with my branding, as they both embody great presence and calmness. The mountain naturally has the ability to regulate through his breath and still the physical body and senses. The chaos of the storm or fire can be raging around him, yet he won't fall into a stress response. That is like Mike to a freaking T. He knows that nothing lasts forever and that this too shall pass. Much like Buddha, the mountain masters restraint, moderation, and patience. He masters restraint, moderation, and patience. Knowing the greatest seeds take the longest to germinate, he is patient and lets life and dreams unfold without forcing, pushing, or interfering. His deep groundedness anchors his wisdom, and in every situation, he has an unmatched view of things that can bring an unbiased perspective. With his pure intent and kind heart, he has so much to give to the world. So staying power, moderation, clarity, wanting to be of service, the power to concentrate, patient, anchored, whole serving, refuses to hurry, can be immovable like the mountain that's over the water. So what's cool is you can see, and this is how like this ends up translating, is I can know some of Mike's Achilles heels. So when it comes to his business model, when it comes to his brand, when it comes to like things just to know about him, these are important to understand that like some of these things are present. I can also pick out the positive attributes: patient, anchored, and whole serving, staying power, moderation, and clarity, wanting to be of service, right? The power to concentrate. These are all super, super true. So this is just one. This is one of many. And then here at the bottom, you can see like it's actually the shadow is overcoming the stress. So like Mike in his life figured out how to overcome stressful situations through having positive restraint in order to enable stillness. And what's really wild is my daughter, her personality is also 52. And I just started realizing like how she's integrating. She's 8 years old, and now she just had straight A's for the first time. She almost failed first grade. And we worked with her really, really hard. And we started focusing on stress response. We started enabling things like neurofeedback and breath work. And her life has completely changed. Like it helps me be a better parent leveraging this. It's not even just about how I leverage it for business. It's actually pretty cool. The repressive nature is feeling stuck. So I know Mike's in a repressive nature if he's feeling stuck. The reactive is restless. I'm like, you want to respond, right? You want to pull away the restlessness. The shadow is stress. The gift is restraint. And the city, what I like to call city on a hill, is stillness. So if I was talking about anything with Mike's brand or explaining him to people, it's often what I say. He's like a mountain that's over the water. I know that like he needs to be very aware of what he lets get under his skin when it comes to stress. I know that the dilemma he may be facing could have to do with shallow breathing. And these are just things that help me honestly understand the avatar better when I go, oh, I know that this number on my chart, not this one we're talking about, it's a different one, but I know that that number represents my target audience. And now I can go through and find their Achilles heel and know the exact type of person that I'm supposed to work with. That's what the power of the system is. It will show you that. And that's primarily what I help people do, is go through the personality, then their target audience, and then their message to the world. And when you get those things right, that's, at least for me, how it changed everything. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. Olivia said in the chat, this is so true of you, Mike. So that was, yeah, I think so. I think it's pretty like on point. So we're kind of getting to the close of our time here, and I've tried to share with you guys a couple of examples of like how this has really helped me. Honestly, I don't know all the ins and outs of human design. I don't really feel like I want to. Like, I'll just have people like Nick or Ellen like show me. And I'm kind of like, just give me what I need to know, and then I'll just make adjustments to it. But I hope that like what I shared about how I changed some of my offerings and my business model was insightful to you guys. Some of you have followed me for a few years, have probably seen that. Does that make sense? At least some of you have followed me for a little while. So I increased the number of mastermind groups that I did, and I decreased the number of launches that I did. And I stopped doing so much public speaking on the road. Sometimes busy seasons come, and I take them, but I really engineered my business around being home and being still, especially once I moved in and found a place to kind of settle in. And then the active service, like when I really started to see that, like certain people would come and ask me to do some work for them or redo their website or write their copy. And as long as I found that their energy wasn't hectic or draining me, I was like, cool, I'll help you out, right? And I stopped chasing all the other experts and their business models. I asked some of you, how many of you have been to an event that I've done in the past? I did a lot of events before COVID, and after COVID, I just shut it down. I could have started them up again. I used to do like 7 workshops a year, and I'd work for 2 straight days and be out of commission for like a week after, because it was just so much work. So like energetically. So I shifted the business model. This has helped me a lot, right? It's helped me a lot. So I hope that gives you sort of permission to follow your own path and discover yourself, learn about yourself and the way that you're wired, and then make the offers that you present to the market somewhat in alignment with them and as much as possible. Sure, I have some outliers. Once in a while, I have to go through busy seasons, but at least I know myself enough how to predict it, right? So next week, I'm in 2 different cities and I'm running my mastermind conference. The week after, I'm sleeping. But then the first 2 weeks of October, I'm literally on the road for 15 straight days in 3 different cities. So after that, no one's talking to me for the rest of October. It's just not going to work. Like it's not just an introvert who needs rest. It's, wow, I'm going to be in front of like hundreds of different people, and I'm just going to take on their energy. And here's the other side. I think Nick knows this, and he's advised me a lot on this. And so is Ellen, actually, who's on this call. Because I'm sort of like this mountain and calm kind of person, guess who always wants to be friends with me? All you crazy people. Yeah, all you crazy people out there just calling me all the time. Oh, I can't figure this out. I'm crying about, 3 unsubscribes from my email list. I was like, oh my gosh, this is not the end of the world, right? And so I had to learn to like kind of barrier some things and call in some help and find some other coaches, who could work with me, or other advisors who could work with me, or teachers in our courses that could kind of take that on. Right. So this is all informed. I'm not an expert on human design. And I will use anything that helps me understand myself. And then allow that to help me help more people. Right. So I hope that this is sort of insightful in some way. And I just encourage you to be open-minded and read more about it, see what's resonating with you, and see if it lines up with your past experiences, because it sure does mine. If you guys are open to it, would you give Nick like a couple of minutes to kind of share how he might be able to work with you and myself? I'd be involved in this. We want to put something like this together because it has been so helpful for me, calling it messaging by design. And I've changed a lot of my writing around this, in terms of how I market myself to the world, right? I want it to be peaceful. I want it to be calm. I want it to be in alignment with who I am. And those of you who are Energizer bunnies, we want the messaging to be more, not frantic, but more energy driven, right? And I will honestly say this, Nick, as a marketer, if I knew this about a client, it would actually help me write in their voice a lot, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes I've wondered, how do I get them to take this test without telling them to take they're taking this test?
Yeah.
So, all right. So Nick, tell us a little bit about what you got planned, and I'm going to kind of throw in my 2 cents there and be a part of this. But fire away. First of all, let's just give Nick a hand. He's really done a lot here to help us understand
Thanks,
this.
Al.
But Nick, take it away, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's my thought. Going through this, obviously, there's a lot of complexity, even sometimes getting the weeds of explaining it. From my perspective, in attempting to translating the science behind it or the certain elements around it, there's a shortcut process here of where I can just do it with you. Just like I did with Mike, I can actually sit down, pull the chart, preach it back to you. And that's what Mike and I wanted to open up as an opportunity for y'all. And what that would look like is actually really, really simple. When we start looking at messaging, if messaging specifically is a challenge that you've had, you have a whole lot to say, but you don't know how to say it. There seems to be like this disconnect between what you feel called to do and this separation between where you're at. I figured out that like the peak of the iceberg, if y'all have ever seen that image of like the iceberg just coming out of the water and then everything that's beneath it, most often messaging seems to be like the actual problem, but it's not. There's identity that's beneath that. And that's what's missing to catalyze and to create the conviction behind the message. And when I shifted this is when everything changed for me. So primarily the issue is hesitation. You're not putting yourself out there as much because you know you have a lot to say, you just don't know how to say it. And so what we want to do is actually work with maybe like 10 or 15 of y'all. And I know there was like, I think at one point we were up to like 90 people or 85 people on the call. But we want to get like a small group of people together to focus on actually creating this with you. So you don't have to go through the 100 therapy sessions and the 80 personality tests, but we can actually, like one by one, we can individually, or I can individually go with you and actually discover these elements and preach it back to you. And so we're going to do like what is it, Mike? Like an accelerator for 4 weeks. Then we're going to actually give you a personalized like brand, like a personalized messaging blueprint that will give you all the information around your messaging that you're going to need that's attached to your human design. And then we're also going to do like a VIP mastermind day of where everyone will come down to Nashville and come hang. And that way we can like go through this like at length. I'm like, I promise I'll stay up till midnight and we'll spend time together. But this is like the shortcut. It took me months to integrate this, and that was at like 10 hours a day. So if you allow me to be the doctor's frame, allow me to inspect it and then preach it back to you. That's what I've done with over 100 people, and it's been game changing for them. So that's what we wanted to open up for y'all. So I'm happy to answer any questions, Mike, or to have you talk through it, but that's the premise.
Yeah, and if you guys are curious about this, what I would say is ping me here, and we'll just do it this way. And you guys can see I'm trying to live what I'm aligned with, right? I'm not throwing like a bunch of webinar slides at you right now. And just say interested in the email or in the subject headline. And I'm just inviting you guys. Here's my new mantra, at least for me. This is important for me. I don't launch, I just invite, right? Like that's what's more aligned with me, right? So if you're interested in finding out more, just shoot me an email right there. That's my personal email, mike@mikekim.com. And you can just literally throw into the subject line, interested. You don't have to write anything in the message if you don't want to. So Steve, just email me there, mike@mikekim.com. I'm interested. Leslie had a question. This only for service-based business? No, it's not. I think I just happen to be a service provider. You said you're an artist. I'm actually an artist at heart. And I think that's probably what I'm going to end up doing in the latter part of my life, even more professionally, going back to that. Wouldn't you know, like this past weekend, it just fell in my lap. The opportunity came. I have a friend who is co-owner of a New York City art gallery, and she invited me to be involved in the opening. Those of you who saw my Instagram, that's there. And I'm now like one of the curators of the museum, of the gallery. That's kind of wild. It's just kind of like I wait for these things to come, and when it feels like a heck yeah, I just say yeah. So that's kind of the pitch today. This was really just more educational for everybody. But if you're interested, just email me at mike@mikekim.com. And yeah, just shoot me a message and we'll get all the details back to you. Or you can DM me or Nick. Right. So I'll put all that info right here in the chat. So you email mike@mikekim.com and just say interested. I can't save the chat because I can save the chat, but I won't have your email. So I won't know how to get in touch with you, like Stanley and some of the others who have mentioned that. So just email me or DM me on Instagram at instagram.com/MikeKim. Let me put the HTTP in, and then we can go from there and I'll take care of you. Okay. All right. I know we went a little bit over and this was a lot to take in, but I would really encourage you guys, no matter what, next step, if you have your chart, figure out which one of the things that you are, a generator, manifestor, so on and so forth. Do a little search online, read some blog posts around it, see what's resonating with you. And I think that it can really help unlock a lot of clarity for both what you're trying to say and how you operate your business. It's done so much for me in the last couple of years, and I've tried to share a little bit about that. So, and I'm getting a lot of very interestings from everybody, like, yeah, triggering the curiosity, right, Kim, Donna, I see the comments in the chat. That's exactly how I felt in the beginning. I was like, this is different. Like, okay, this is a little out there, or what is this chart? But then the more I dug into it and the more I had some helpful people like Nick who spent more time with this, help me understand it, it actually made a lot of sense. And then I'm the one who took action to kind of reconfigure my business models and do all of that sort of stuff. So I have a lot of I feel very good about where I'm going in my business. Yeah. Nick, any final words for everybody?
No, man, I think it's really good. There's a lot to learn. I mean, primarily what I help people do is just fast tracking the process. And I think going over the course of like a month of doing this, there's a lot more in between sessions that you can learn. And I'll promise if you go to like try to just figure it all out on your own or just inspect the system, but understand how to connect it to the personal branding. I love Mike's intent, which is like, we don't want to show you a concept that's brand new and that also may hold some redemption for you that you're like, holy crap, I need to like figure this out because I was where Nick was at, or I was at where Mike was at, and I needed a breakthrough. I needed something. So like, we want to provide that chance for redemption. I know there's a lot of info, but the primary thing is like, I've already done the info part. So the primary thing is, can you get in a position of receiving to say, you know what, I'm open to going through an experience that I believe can be life-changing for me. I'm open to someone reflecting back to me what the truth is about how I can operate. And that's a lot more how these types of things go. So I'm opening up a lot of space in my world for people who are ready for that step. And in addition, who are looking for that deep transformation. So happy to help, happy to serve. And yeah, feel free to reach out, or any questions that y'all might have, feel free to hit me up on IG. I dropped it in there as well, but wish you all the best. I hope this was meaningful.
Yeah. And I will post the replay on YouTube and you guys will be able to access that at any time. So if you missed anything, you'll always be able to go back. Okay. All right. Be unapologetically you, everybody. That's my last charge to you. All right. Just be unapologetically you and learn yourself. And it'll just make a lot of things easier. All right. Okay. Big love. Have a wonderful rest of the day and a wonderful weekend. and be well. All right, I'll send out this replay or the YouTube link when we get this process, probably later today or tomorrow. All right, peace out, everybody.